Welcome to Group 5's presentation on the plan for our in-game mechanic prototype and testing. Throughout this presentation, we'll discuss several topics surrounding the mechanic, starting with the details and scope of our game mechanic through an illustrative mirror board discovery. Then we'll discuss our purpose and research objectives, the timeline for our project, the equipment we'll need, our planned participants, scenarios, the approach and evaluation of our research, interview questions we will ask, and finally our roles as team members.
The game mechanic that our team has developed is the cartography skill. This mechanic will allow players to make maps while exploring the game world, enhancing their experience within the game through aspects of exploration and economics. The setup for the cartography skill begins with general world exploration. As the player moves around the world, they will eventually encounter a cave. Upon entry, they will encounter an NPC who will present them with a blank map and a quest to fill it out. This encounter will teach the player how to make maps in the game, both of the surface world and the cave systems. Filling out these maps will help the player gain points in this skill, unlocking different map layers to aid in resource collection. In addition, the player will be able to sell maps to NPCs, which in turn will expand the variety and value of purchasable goods being sold by merchants throughout the game. The actual skill tree associated with the cartography game mechanic is simple. For this mechanic, the map acts the same as any other tool. It is selected from the inventory and a corresponding action is performed in the game world. In order to gain points in the cartography skill, the player must select the map from their inventory and then move around the world. As the player moves, the map is updated through a grid system, automatically filling out the geographic information in real time. Overall, the two main attributes associated with the cartography skill are exploration and economics. Through mapmaking, players will be able to discover secrets within the world via specialized map layers, explore the game more thoroughly, and potentially unlock fast travel points. In terms of economics, the cartography skill will allow for more efficient resource collection, with additional map layers directing the player to resource hotspots throughout the game world. In addition, it will introduce maps as sellable goods. Players will be able to sell maps to NPCs, complete or incomplete. By selling completed maps, a wider variety of goods will become available to the player via merchants. The sale of incomplete maps, however, would be much riskier, and could lead to an NPC becoming lost, requiring a rescue mission. In the end, the cartography game mechanic will offer players a new level of immersion in their gaming experience. The following presentation will outline our team's methods of research and development of this mechanic.
So the main purpose of our research into this game mechanic is to make more informed decisions surrounding the integration of the mechanic in order to provide the best gamer user experience possible. We plan to do this by first conducting prior survey research to better determine our players' demographical information, as well as their skill set and preferences, as this will give us a better idea of who the users are and ultimately who the users should be. Then we will conduct A/B testing in order to gain empirical evidence that will help us find out how the players want the mechanic to behave as well as how they don't, followed by a post-interview in which the participant will be asked some questions in regards to their suggestions, feedback, and overall experience with the mechanic in order to gain valuable insights. The ultimate goal of our research is to understand what is the most successful implementation of our game mechanic.
So in regards to the schedule and how we hope to spread out our work, we took a look at everything we had to do and came up with an estimate of how much each section will take. Depending on how the work flows, the schedule is subject to change at any given time. We hope to start the week off by finishing our preparation work in our game mechanic. Then Monday, we're going to find and select individuals for interviews and spend time conducting the testing with said individuals on Tuesday and Wednesday. Then we'll take time to review our results on Thursday so we can make changes on Friday and then have Saturday as an extra day for final review. The equipment that we will be using, which includes devices and software alike, are the following. Various computers such as MacBooks, PC, all depending on what the participant has. A virtual reality system for one of the participants known as the Valve Index system, if we choose to go down the route of VR. A pixel resolution of 4500 by 5500 if we choose to go down the route of 2D gaming. Other laptops on standby or notebooks to record notes. We will need the Stardew Valley game itself to reference back to, and we want to use the softwares Blender and Unity to create our game mechanic, and Loom and Miro to conduct our ideas for brainstorming.
In terms of our sessions, ideally we'll be testing a total of 6 participants, where each participant is tested with at least 2 design type conditions. This will help to increase internal validity of our findings, as well as provide multiple perspectives for each of our mechanics' different design types. For now, we are aiming to have 3 different comparison mechanics to test. The length of our sessions is aimed to be around 1 hour total, with 5 minutes allocated to answering the pre-survey, 30 to 45 minutes for in-game testing, and 10 to 15 minutes for post-play interview questions. One major consideration is that if some or all of our participants are using VR, we need to accommodate for breaks in order to avoid the participant feeling nauseous or dizzy as a result of the VR's high stimuli environment.
Each test will consist of introducing the player to this mechanic in a 3-step process. As soon as the test subject enters the cave system, they will meet our new NPC named Edgar at the mouth of the cave. He will be cornered by a few enemies and will talk to your PC for support. He will trigger a dialogue where he yells for help. Edgar will then escape the enemies and will offer a player a blank map in exchange for some help filling out the pathway of the cave. This will be the basis of the tutorial of this new map mechanic. Edgar will mention that upon completion, the PC is to visit him in the museum to return the filled out map in exchange for a reward. This first cave will be a small fixed layout. After successfully mapping the area, the player is to return to the museum to find Edgar working next to Gunther. Going up to him should trigger another dialogue pop-up. He will claim his surprise to find the PC in good health and exclaim his appreciation for the map being filled out. Edgar will then attempt to strike a deal with the PC. For every map that is completed, he will sell the map in his store. In exchange for this work, any loot brought back from the cave will be split between the PC and Edgar's shop. This handful of scenarios will allow the player to be introduced to the mechanic and the new NPC. This will establish enough of a relationship so they can get a taste of what the character is like and how they will behave during the PC's interactions with them. This snapshot will give the researchers a sample to gauge player interaction, enjoyment, and further interest in exploring the cartography skill tree.
So our first step in our approach is to understand which questions we want to ask, which we'll get to in more detail in the next slide. We have multiple different questions from broad to specific. We also have to keep in mind that no matter what method we choose, we will be entirely remote. We also have to consider if we want to do a 2D or a 3D test, as both offer valuable information. Depending on the limitations of the game prototype, we are not sure if we are able to do a 2D or a 3D testing method. It all depends on what we as a group receive. That being said, the different approaches we are considering include the virtual reality testing, which is our ideal approach as we would gain lots of information through the virtual reality set. Should we pick another method, we hope to at least have one participant test through virtual reality, as they own the needed equipment. The second approach we are considering is the A/B testing. In this scenario, we would gather information on behavior throughout the randomization of different designs to different participants. As we will have different designs for a prototype, this would be beneficial to understand which design works best and different insights. We are also considering the right test. This test consists of the participant being given certain tasks to work with within the game and the prototype. During this, the performance is recorded, and depending on how many people we have, mechanics may change. This will be beneficial to analyzing general impressions and experience. Finally, we are considering the basic interview, which consists of asking the participants questions about the game, their views and opinions about the game experience, how they want the mechanic to work versus how they don't want it to work.
In regards to our interview questions, the pre-survey questions will provide us with information on the demographics of the users and some of their relevant preferences. These could be questions such as, what games have you played recently? What is your favorite type of game? Would you consider yourself as an avid, moderate, or nominal gamer? And have you had experience with VR before? After testing for an in-game experience, we will ask a few juicy questions to each participant in order to gain valuable feedback and potential suggestions that will lead to an ultimately better and more optimized final product. These questions include, what do you see as the primary function of this mechanic? Further research in VR game design has shown that discovery through VR is more valuable than in-game progression, and this is the foundation for our mechanic. So it's therefore important that we ask this question to ensure that users can also establish this connection. Another question would be, walk me through the process of your discovery of each design type for the mechanic. This question will give us a better idea of the learning involved with the several different design types, telling us if they are interpreted by the user how we intended them to be. And finally, are there any ways you think that either of the mechanics could be improved? This question gives the user the opportunity to provide us with helpful suggestions that can improve the mechanic's integration into the game. Thank you for watching our presentation on our group's plan for implementing a cartography gaming mechanic. Please feel free to message our group in Teams with any questions or feedback you may have.